Hi guys, very good evening to you. So welcome to video number 151, and this video is very special to me because we have already crossed 150 videos, and so this time we'll actually going to talk about one of a very usable feature in Excel, how to import the text files in Excel, how to get the data in the Excel, right? And I'm uploading this video because let me show you actually. So one of my subscribers, Mary, she has written me this email, which I have actually copied on the notepad, because I don't know, for some reasons she said that she would not like to display her email ID, but that's fine. So this is what actually Mary has written me. Hi Ajay, would you be able to tell me how we can import a text file in Excel? And if it can be done using VBA, it will be so nice of you. Well, definitely, why not? That's my job, ma'am. Not a problem. I'm just a beginner and do not know much about VBA. Is it really tough? Okay. Thank you so much for helping us. Indeed, your each video is awesome. The best thing is they are live examples and I can use them in my office. Okay. Looking forward to your one more exciting video. All right. So Mary actually has asked me three things, I believe. Let me just write it before I forget it. How to import text file in Excel. Okay, and so she said that what is the feature in Excel, and in case if it can be done through VBA, then the second question is for the VBA. So we'll try to do it in both ways and we'll see the difference, right? Okay, the third question, which was very interesting, that is actually VBA tough. So it's tough as long as you're not going to start it, to be very honest. Once you start it and you have a proper classes, you have a good teacher, trust me, it's actually very simple. But yes, one thing you need to remember always, it takes a little time. It doesn't come like you can't learn VBA just overnight. I think this is a very general principle. This applies everywhere. Whenever you learn something, be it VBA, be it Excel, be it any other language, or maybe if I talk about our life as well, then success is not so easy, right? You have to be very consistent, right? Now I'm not gonna talk here, I'm going to give you say like things which generally like you read in the books but to be very honest, yes, hard work is required and the practice is required, right? Some people get it a little fast, some people may they may take time, and a lot of things depends upon your background as well. If you have a knowledge of programming, you have learned in your school, in your graduation, it is going to help you a lot. But that does not mean that in case if you don't have that background, you can't learn it. To be very honest, I never had this programming experience, right? So I learned it because I was in that environment. I tried hard, and it's actually it takes a good amount of time to be very good in the VBA, but it's always fun. VBA always excites me, so I still learn. I don't think so that it's a actually ending process. Even today, when you guys email me, then I sometimes I get so good questions that I have to think a lot, and then I have to Google it, right? So this is how you learn yourself. This is how you groom yourself, right? Okay, so I also give the training, Mary, online. If you want to connect with me, you can write me on my email ID. This is my email ID, which I actually generally share in my every video, or maybe you can go to my website. My website is excelvblover.com. I'll not take much of the time on this. Just go to this website and you can see all the training course here. If you are looking for, as you already my subscribers, I'm sure you must have watched my all the videos. So in this video tutorial section, you have the VBA videos, and in this you have all the videos related to the Excel, and then training course which I actually gave one-on-one through Skype, right? All right, so now let's come back to this question. So let's let us guys quickly start this importing the data from the text file, and let's see how we can do it without using VBA. So what I'm gonna do is let me take you to my desktop, and I have a file, any file. Let me pick let's just pick this date.txt file. Let's just open it and let's see what we have got in. Okay, so I have got the date and marks here, and it's separated by the space, I guess. Yeah, it's separated by the space, right? So let's try to import this file. Just think that, let's assume that we need to export this data, or I would say that we need to copy and paste this data in the Excel. How we can do that, right? Okay, so without opening the file. So what we're gonna do is, let me just press don't save. So it's on my desktop, and the name of the text file is date.txt. So let's come back to the Excel, and I'm using, by the way, 2010, and I think this was the same in 2013 as well, and in 7 also. Okay, and so we'll go to the data menu tab, as you can see here, and you see the options here. So click on the from text option. Once you click on the from text option, it's a very basic thing actually, which I'm today telling you guys, but then again, sometimes even the basic things becomes very important in our life when we actually work on the complex data set. So now I'm on my desktop, and the name of the file was date.txt, right? So just open this, click on the open. The moment you do that, you'll see this window. It's a kind of a window which is also you can use in the text to column. If you're not aware about that, go and watch the video on the text to column. You can simply go to the search tab and write there text to column, and you'll see we have used this window in my previous video as well, but of course for the different problem, right? So now let me tell you, we have the two parameters here. One is called the fixed width, and the other one is called the delimited. So what is the difference between that? So if you check the fixed width, and if you click on the next, it's actually giving you the option to segregate the data by using these separators. What I'm doing is I'm simply clicking them here, right? So in this case, I can't actually use this option. As you can see here, I don't think so that I have to explain you, because of the simple reason that you can have a data preview here, and you can see we can't actually separate them. If I try to separate these marks, let me just unhighlight this. So double click on it, and they will be gone. So let me just double click on it. Okay. Now understand this. If I put my line here, let me just remove this as well, because there is nothing after this marks. This is not going to separate my header, right? Because header has a different number of characters, whereas date has different number of characters. So this option is not suitable for us. So we will click on the back, and we'll try to see this now, another option which is called the delimited. All right, so let's see. So now here you see you can't actually click anywhere. That's the difference between fixed width and delimited. In delimited, actually Excel Intelligence will design the database for you. It is going to segregate the your data element. Now, provided you should tell them that which delimiter you think that is the best to use here. Now in our text file, if you remember, or maybe you can look at, if you don't remember, just look at this data. It has a space in your text file, right? So if it has a space, then let me just uncheck this and click on this delimiter. The moment I click here, you see my data will segregate. Wow, that's amazing, right? You don't have to do anything. Now many of you might be thinking that, all right, so how about date hash marks? How about date dot marks, or maybe anything else? In that case, if you don't see that option here, as you can see here, space, comma, semicolon, and tab, we have just 4 the options. These are the generally options which you see in the text file, how the data actually separates from each other. But if you don't have, then no problem, just press on the others and write that delimiter. If it is hash, then just write hash. If it is, let's say, colon, write that. If it is, whatever, if it is star, then you can even write the star, and immediately this data will be separated. You can see that in the preview, right? Okay, so right now we just have the space, so I will be very much pretty okay with this space. Now let's go to next. Now you don't have to touch this, change the properties. We don't really need to change the properties. We'll just click here on the finish. Now where exactly you want your data? So I want the data on this A1 cell, right? So just press OK. So this is how your data will come, right? Now let me again show you what exactly we did. Go to the data, this data tab, click on the from text because I'm looking for the from text. Go to the path, I'm on the desktop, and write the path name, which is .txt. I'm going to open this and I'm going to press the delimit, which is by default selected. I just go to the next space, and then you can even directly press finish, right? And it is going to take you to the cell where do you want your data. Let's say this time we want the data here, so you get the data here. Quite simple, right? All right, now same thing you can also do using VBA, right? So I will be telling you that. Let's just come to this sheet 2. So what we can do is, now there are two ways of doing it. One is to make the program, which is my always the first preference, and one is to take the help of the macro editor, where Excel is going to record everything for you, right? So let's go ahead and see how we can actually record this. So I'm going to click on the developer tab. I'm going to actually click on the record macro. Just in case you don't see this developer tab, then you have to go to the files and then click on this option button. In 2013 or in 2010, this is on the same window, this is somewhere else, but you can just Google it and you can check. In my case, in 2010, I'll go to the customize ribbon and I'll activate this developer tab here, right? If it is unchecked, you need to check this if you want to record the macro. In 2007, I'm pretty much sure that it's somewhere here in the file options. When you go to the file option, it's somewhere here in the formula or general. Here you have this kind of a checkbox, show developer tab. So just click on that. And in 2013, I'm really not sure, but that's very easy. You can simply Google it, that how to find the developer tab in 2013. You will get to know. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do this stuff. So I'm going to record the macro. Okay, so let's just name this macro as import data. Let me press OK. All right, so now we're going to do all the steps again. I will go in the data tab, I'll go in the from text, and I'll go in the desktop, and in the desktop I'll write here that same file. Now these steps are being recorded in macro, so we're going to uncheck this. I'm going to select the space and then finish. Where do you want the data? I want the data on the A1 cell, let's say. All right, so we got the data. Now what we need to do is, let's just click on the stop. Once we have stopped it, now let's go to the environment, Visual Basic, and let's see that where we have actually this macro. So this is my macro, you can see here. Now don't pay attention to this project personal.xlsp. Actually what happened when I record my macro, by mistake, it's not actually mistake, but I should have made it this workbook, right? This workbook means that macro is going to be recorded in this workbook, but this was selected personal macro workbook. So personal macro workbook is entirely a different concept, which is obviously not a part of actually this session of this video. But I can tell you one thing, just forget about everything, just look at the code here, and this is the code. So we can see here what we did is, we went to the connections, it has generated some code, and this is my file name. C drive user ABC is my machine name on my desktop. This is the file called data.txt, and the range it has given, and all really, it's a long code. Actually, I don't know what does that mean, right? But is it going to work actually in my code? That's the point. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to copy this, the entire code. Let me just copy this, and let's get that project explorer back. So in this workbook, which is my book 1, I'm going to create this module, and I'll paste it here, the same macro which is recorded in this workbook, right? So why I need to this cut and paste, copy and paste, because by default my macro was recorded in the personal macro workbook. But in your case, pay attention while recording. If it is going to be this workbook, then you never have to copy and paste it. you will have this entire macro within this book 1, which is my workbook name, right? So what was the name? You can in fact write any name, not a problem, and this is how your macro will run now. Okay, so let's do one thing now. Simply just save this file. I'm going to save this again in the desktop, and obviously we will like to make this macro enabled so that the macro can work, and I will name this as, let's say, demo video. Let's just save this. All right. Okay, so we saved this. Let me delete this data. Okay, and do you want to delete the query in addition to the range? The range, no, the query will retrieve new data. All right, so let's do one thing. Just click yes. Okay, and go to the insert and go to the shapes and create a button. Okay, so once you have the button, I'll go and click on the assign macro, and here you see that that's my macro name actually, right? Or maybe I can write here this workbook, so it will tell me all the macros which are created within this workbook, which has a name demo video. So I'm just going to click OK. Now let's just run this and see what will happen. Oh wow, amazing. So you see that this keeps on running. Okay, every time this macro will run, and this will give you some values. So you can even automate this, right? So the prompt which we were getting this, every time you delete this data, this will be there, because it says that, you know, the range you deleted is associated with the query that retrieves the data from the external source. External source means a text file. Do you want to delete the query in addition to the range? If you click no, the query will retrieve new data to the worksheet next time the query is refreshed. So if you click no and then click here, then you see what will happen. Your query will start from there itself. Now if I again delete it, and if this time, let's say I'm going to click here again no, and I press, my data will always import here. But if I delete this and if I say yes, then let's see what will happen. Look at this. All right, so let's just delete this again, and let's just press no, and I'm going to press this. So you see what is happening here. The data is coming, but there is one problem, and the problem is that every time it goes to the next column, right, it automatically shifts. So if you go to the Visual Basic environment, if you see that what exactly is happening, basically what is happening, every time it's starts from the A1, but in the A1 it sees the data is already there. So what is happening, it is moving that data to the next line. So what you can do is you can create a new button here, and we can name that, let's say, we can delete the data. To delete the data, we can create a button here. You can give this a name called clear. Okay, format it in a presentable way. I'm just writing it as a clear, and now record the macro. Go to the developer tab, record macro. This time please ensure that it should be this workbook. Actually, this by default, this always comes as a this workbook. In my case, it's coming personal macro workbook, because I was recording a video and I recorded that in the personal macro workbook. So that's why, you know, by default we see that it's always like personal macro workbook. But if you are going to record this in your case, it will always be by default this workbook. So what you have to name this, let it be macro 3, not a problem, just press OK. And so now what I need to do is I need to delete this. Press delete and say, let's say no, that's fine. Okay, and now stop the macro. Once you stop the macro, go to the Visual Basic environment, and if you click on this module 3, see, this is the code which we have generated. Column A to F, and then that selection has to have the clear contents. So that's a very small code, that's fine. And if you remember, this time it is created under my workbook name, because while recording the macro, I chose this workbook, right? I hope now it's making a sense. All right, so now whenever you record this, what you need to do is, so let's just write the content here as well. Import me. All right, so we click here, the data is imported, and then next time we need to click here, so just right click on it and give the macro, and the macro name is macro 3. Press OK, And now if I run this, see now, wow. Right, so this is how you can actually use these both the options. Right, either you do this manual process, go to the data and text to column, but if it is something which you do very regularly and of the same file, but remember, right, because we have linked this file only with the file which we have written here, the path called the date.txt. If the file is changing, you have to change the code here, right? But anyways, we never do that. For that, there is a separate macro which we can record. I'm assuming that every time, every day, every week, or every month, you have this text file, the same file on the desktop, but having a new data. So that in that case, this code will work very nice, right? All right. Now, this is what I actually did using the macro editor. We simply recorded the macro. But what if you're a programmer and you know how to do this, then we don't have to record this macro, right? We can even further go ahead and create a programming. So now this time I'm going to tell you how to write a VBA program. Well, many people ask me that what is the difference between a macro and a VBA. So basically the difference is nothing. It's just that everybody has its own opinion, but I would say at the end of the day it's all about same. And the reason is the thing which we did, we recorded a macro without knowing any programming language. We went to the developer tab and recorded a macro. So when Excel generates a macro, when Excel generates a VBA code, like in this case, as I was showing you here, this is all the code which actually Excel has generated for you. We didn't do anything, right? So people generally call this macro, right? And when you write the code by yourself, then people call it that's a VBA program. But ultimately, see what is happening. Even Excel is generating the VBA program. Even Excel is writing the same language which can write, right? So at the end of the day, it's one and the same thing. This is what I believe, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and write the program. And so I'll go to the Visual Basic environment and we'll create here this module. This is going to be very interesting actually. So let me just double click on it and resize it. So here I'm going to write my let's say data import. Alright, this is how we write the macro. Now let's start this. Now to start this, first understand the code which we need to write. First of all, we need to open the text file which is saved on my desktop. And this is the code which you write when you work on the text files. Here your path goes, path name, including the file name, okay, and for input as #1. #1 is actually a name which is given to a file, right? In case if you have already used this, you can use the #2 as well, but in my case I'm going to name this as a #1, right? So for input means that actually it is used for the read-only mode, right? We are just going to read that and put it here in this Excel sheet. I'll tell you what does that mean. So before I go ahead and do that, let me just tell you to the take you to the Excel, the VBA help. So just press F1, select this open and press F1, and now the window will pop up and I am looking for the VBA library. So I'll click on the help. I'm just giving you this additional information so that you can read that stuff, right? When you're watching this video, maybe after the video. Now this actually tells you about entire thing, how to open the text file. Open path name for mode. Mode means that what is your mode? Do you want to open it as a read only or write only? What exactly you want to do. And here you can see all the definitions. So we have the append, we have the binary, input, output, random, there are a number of things. Input means to read only, output means when you want to write it somewhere. Append means when you actually want to combine more than two text files or two text files. You want to insert the data one text file into another. But we are interested right now only in this code, which is this open. That's my test file. Test file means my path for input as #1. And this is close #1 means that it is going to close my file. So this is what we are going to use here. So the first thing which I'm going to do is I should be on the sheet 3. So I'm going to define here as, let's say, dem Excel as worksheet. I'm declaring this object so that I can use it. So set Excel. Now when you work on the objects, you declare actually use the set word. So I'll use this set Excel equals to this workbook and then dot sheet, and what is my name of the sheet? It's sheet 3. So this will help me actually in writing my code in the future very easily. I can directly write excel dot range A1 or whatever I want to write. I don't have to write the complete name. Okay, now the next thing we need to set the path. So where is my text file path? So I'm going to say that, let's say dim p as string, and now p is equals to, so let's just go to the desktop and right click here and go to the properties and quickly go to the security, and I'm using actually Windows F7. This is how I copy the path. So we'll just put the path here. Okay, so all right, so we have some expression error. Oh yeah, it's actually double quote. So in this path, now what is my path name? I'll remove this. You write here p. All right, so now this is not showing any error. So the file will be open, and once the file will be open, and make sure that this file should also be closed. Otherwise it will always show you read only mode. It can't open, right? The next time you run this macro. First thing. Now what I need to do is I need to run this loop till I have my all the lines not covered in my text file, which means that if I open this text file, let me just show you back. So what we want to do is we want to cover every line one by one, like this first, and then this, and then this line, and then this line, and this, and then this. The moment it sees there's no line afterwards, means there is no data, it should stop, right? So what we're going to do is we'll run a loop here, and we'll say that do until, this is how you write, do until end of file, and the name of the file, right? And then loop. This is a loop concept. So it keeps on running till it does not find empty line, right? Okay, now here comes the important line. Now what you need to do is you want to store every single line first, and then you have to paste it. So how you gonna read the line? This is how you write the code, or maybe you can go to the Excel help just in case if you're finding something. So we can see here, let's say I would say line. Just let me just search on this. So basically you don't have to remember the codes, the concept has to be clear. So now in this case, let's click on this line input, and let me take you to this piece. Look at this line. So first we have opened the text file. This we have already written. Open my text file for input. Input, again, remember I was telling you, go through that Excel help, and you'll see there input is basically to read the line. Once you read the line, then you have to store it somewhere, and this is the code basically which you write. Now this is the Microsoft help. I have not opened any Google, right? So you can see here it says read line into variables. Now what does that mean? Let me just copy this for you, and let me just paste it here. Now see, line input #1 means that it's going to read the first line of that text file for you, and then it is going to give that line to the text line, which is a variable. In our case, we can name it anything. We can name it var as well. So, but you have to declare in the top them var as string. Okay. So now what will happen if I just run this code? Let me simply run this code and show you what exactly I mean. Now the file is open. Obviously you can't see it. It's but open. And the moment I now run this code, this var is empty. But look at this now, right? Now this var has got my first line, which that it has my headers, date and space marks. Now here actually, once you have this date and marks, you want to separate them so that you can store them in different cells. Like in this case, we'll store it in A1 and then B1. So what I'm going to do is, here comes the very interesting part. I'm going to declare, first of all, let's do one thing. Now look at this. This keeps on running. Wow, great. And you see that data is changing because it's going to the next line one by one, right? And once it is through with every line, we need to close it. So there you go. So this is what we are going to write here. Now, once we are on this var, so it is going to give me the combination of both the headers. So I want to separate them. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create another variable, let's say y, and I say that split my var. Split is a function which we use. Go and watch my videos on the arrays, and you'll come to know what exactly this function is all about. It's a very powerful function. It's always I love to work on this function because it can make your life so easy. Now what will happen is once you split this will be turned into an array. Let me just quickly go to the add watch, because split function, we use it generally, we use this with the arrays. Now if I run this and I show you, all right, so variable not defined, we have to define. So I'm going to define here y, okay, as let's say variant. Okay, now run this, see what will happen. Now you already know that in var my first header will come. Now we are going to say that in this var, which is my date space marks, segregate them, and this is called the delimiter space. So eventually what will happen when I press F8, look at this on the watch window, you will have a plus sign. So date and marks are now separated, right? So once you have got them separated, this will go in the 0 index, this will go in the first index of this arrow, of this array, right? And this is how the array works. If you don't know what is this 0 and 1, go and watch the videos on the arrays. Now what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to say that, all right, so on my cell number, which is my row number, and the column number is 1, the value has to be, the first value has to be y0. And then again on the same concept, I'm going to say that on the second column, but having the same row number, the another value, which is the index, the different index, which is called the 1, that the value has to be there. And after we have both the values published, we need to go to the next row number. Remember, in this case we are only incrementing the row, the column will remain always 1 and 2, right? Because of the fact that your data will go like this. First it prints the data here, and then here, and then it goes to the next line, it prints here, and then this, and then this. So in every situation you are just actually increasing the row number, but the column numbers remains 1 and 2 only, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. However, in case of row number, it is 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5, 6, 7 and so on, right? So that's why I use that row number equals to row number plus 1. So we'll also declare this row number as long, and the first row number has to be 1. Okay, right, makes sense. All right, so now let's see we are able to get this VBA program or not. So let me just press F8. All right, so file is opened. Now you can see that I've got my header, date and marks, and now the moment I run this, the plus sign will come here, and we have got the date and marks. So y0 stands for the date, and this time the row number is 1 and the column is also 1. So I got the date here, perfect. And this time the row number is going to be again the 1 and the column will be 2. So that means I will be on the B1. So I got the marks, perfect. Now next time when it goes to the next line of my text file, because I've written here do until end of file, right? The row number has to be incremented of the text file, of the Excel file, I beg your pardon, because next time we need the data here in the second row, A2 and B2. All right, so we got this incremented by 1. Now again the loop will run, and this time this var, the moment I run, it is going to have my second line, which is called the date and marks, and similarly now y will have these values. Now the index is changed, 0 and 1, and this is what I'm going to print here. Oh great, right? So you can actually just double click here so that you can start seeing the values. Otherwise it's not a fun to watch your macro in case if you are getting not the complete values. So look at this, it's wonderful, right? It's wonderful. All right, so close the file and there you go. So you can write this code. Let me just maximize this. So see this code, and you can use in your office or wherever you are working, and you can actually make this kind of a program. So similarly, create a button here, just click on the shapes and then assign the macro and give that macro name called my data import, and that will also work. So these are the basically 3 methods. One is the manual method. Simply we went ahead and we clicked here and the pop-up came and we used the delimited option. In the second method we actually recorded a macro without knowing any VBA. We simply did the same steps, but before we started with that steps, we actually recorded the macro, right? And this time we created a program by ourselves. So you can see there is a huge difference between both the programs. the program which we created and the program which macro editor has created for you. Both are different, right? But that's fine, as long as you are able to get your output, I think is fine, right? So I hope you like this video, and you can use this video in your office or wherever you're working, guys. So signing off from the video number 151. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do that and give me a good rating. I'll come up with some more exciting stuff very soon. Till then, very happy learning and stay fit. Bye bye.